going to be discussing how to sell a business and how to acquire businesses. Our first speaker is going to be John Anderson of Because Business Resources. John is going to speak on the tools you need in order to sell your business, his own experience with working with companies looking to sell their businesses, and general tips. John's company specializes in 2 to 10 year preparation of organizations for key person succession and eventual ownership, transfer, and exit. John's accomplishments include receiving a master's degree in management and being a professional member of the Institute of Management Consultants, where he currently serves as a membership chair on their Oregon and Southwest Washington Board of Directors. So please welcome John Anderson.
Thank you. Good evening. Thank you. Well, we're going to talk about how to prepare your business for sale, leading to possible acquisitions of other businesses. So this is a wonderful topic tonight. I'm excited to talk with you. The first thing is in terms of how are you going to organize your business for sale, and what are you going to do to get it ready and to put it on the market and to prepare it. And it takes some real time to do that. You've all got a sheet. If you want to take a look, we'll go through these points together. So the first thing is I would recommend that you start thinking of as a venture capitalist. And that is the time to begin to prepare for sale is when you begin your business. Not when you're 50, not when you're 60, but when you launch your business. Think like a venture capitalist. Venture capitalists don't go into deals without knowing how they're going to get out, what their return on investment is going to be, what those steps that they would like to have occur. Now, that's not saying they're going to occur, but they have a map of what they would like to occur, and then they adapt as they go along. Not only do they need to know how they're going to get out, but they want to know how the person is, the president, that they're going in to help, how that person is going to get out. Because all these things work together around what's going to be their future. So the first thing is to think like a venture capitalist. Then the next thing is to use strategic tools that we learn in business school or go to the libraries. You know, there's lots of incredible books coming out. Start learning and studying these topics. Strategic planning, scenario planning, budgeting for small ventures. I'd like to make sure that you understand that my context this evening is to talk about businesses that have between 5 and 50 employees and that are doing annual revenue of somewhere between at least $500,000 and about $20 million. So that's the context of these comments. So the next thing is using the strategic management tools to guide and direct, having smart goals. Where are you going? How are you going to do it? Looking at your financials, learning how to read balance sheets and financial statements, profit and loss statements, and then comparing them from year to year so you have long-term goals and you see how you're moving towards those long-term goals. Now there's going to be upsets and wrinkles and collapses like we've just been going through, but that's not an excuse to stop planning. In fact, you have to plan more in light of those kinds of developments. And you can always make predictions and targets. I talked to fellas and gals and they were like, who can predict? Well, go back and look at your last 24 months of bank reconciliations and look at your deposits and you'll see a pattern there. And yes, there's, are you 50% below? Then estimate you're going to be 50% below this next month compared to the year before or 2 years before. So you have to be making projections, targets, if you're going to be operating to steer it and to head towards goals that you want to achieve. Now, the next thing is to design from the very beginning that what you're after is not just customer satisfaction, but what I call customer delight. How do you create the Apple effect, where the customer is a more gung-ho salesperson than their sales managers, where the person comes to you and they say, oh my God, have you seen my new whatever? Look at this. And they proceed to go through the features and sell it to you. Now, that's the kind of customers everyone would like to have. And we can do it, and it's called prosumers. And it's by finding that sweet spot. What is that need that the customer has, that your ideal customer has, and how are you going to fill it? And then how are you going to twist and turn your operation as the need of those ideal customers change and morph in the marketplace. So the next piece here on our list is practicing shopping for a business. The best thing that you can do is to pretend, even if you're not, pretend that you're shopping to buy and acquire a business. Why? Because first of all, the only way you're going to have the time to shop is you're going to have a business that has a team that runs by itself and that you're not required to be there much. And the more that you can make that business able to operate whether you're there or not, A, the value of that business goes up dramatically. B, you've got the time to not only make choices about possible investments in the same way that people practice buying commodities or stocks and bonds. People practice, they don't actually put their money in, they pretend as if they are. Well, you can do the same thing in shopping for other businesses. And it's going to give you practice in thinking and having the mindset of a buyer. And you need a buyer's mindset so that you can then apply those insights to your venture. Because sometimes, not too soon, not too long, you're going to be in a situation where buyers are going to be looking at your venture. And you need to have thought through those circumstances and prepared your organization that you've got the answers and you've got the structure that appeals to the buyer's mindset. Next is the changing demographics. Well, baby boomers, hello. There's a big shift of taking place. I see some 30 and 40-year-olds here, but by and large, I think there's most of us 50 plus, or many of us are 50 plus. Most of the businesses that are owned out there are owned by folks that are 50 or older. Well, in the next 5 to 15 years, those folks are either going to choose to retire or they're going to be forced to retire. That's going to mean a big buying opportunity for investors, but what it's going to do also, it's going to deflate values. I mean, tell me, what happens when you have an increasing number of sellers and a decreasing number of buyers? A lot of businesses will never be transferred. They'll liquidate and just shut. And those employees will be out in the street. The customers won't have the goods and services that they've been depending upon. They're going to have to find new vendors. Third is, one of the best ways to move forward in this process is to look at the systems, methods, and best practices of your organization. Do you have written job descriptions, and do you have a mapping of your throughput? Not just for the operations, customer calls on the phone, customer comes into the office, customer places an order, you fulfill the order, you deliver the product, you collect the money, you put the money in the bank. Okay, that's a highly simplified map of an operations. Have you mapped your operation? Have you mapped your administration? How is it that the bank is reconciled, that the taxes are done, the quarterlies, the B&O, the federal? How is that all done? Is that all mapped out? Your marketing plan, do you have an annual marketing plan? So this is just part of the things that are needed, because a systematized business is worth several times, sometimes many times more than a casually systematized business. Every business is systematized or it wouldn't open the doors and conduct business. But do you have it in writing? If you're going to innovate, you've got to have it in writing so that you can study it. If you're going to evaluate your employees, you've got to have it in writing. They've got to know what there's expected of them. You've got to evaluate their progress so you can give them further and additional training and coaching to bring their performance up. Part of systematizing a business is determining, do you have the right people in the right jobs? Is their temperament fit for that job? Or are they just there because it's a job? Most people, it's indicated there's studies between 24 and 33% is the current efficiency of most organizations. Way, way low. I mean, think of your people that they complain to you, oh, I have to do this in my job tomorrow. Oh, I hate that part. Well, everybody's got a job that there's some part of it that they hate or that they just don't like. Well, the result is they're not going to do that part of that job very well because they don't have a passion for it. Have you looked and studied your tasks for each position and looked at the temperament of the individuals who are filling those positions? Now, this is a two-edged sword. On the one hand, you redesign your positions to fit the people. In a small organization, you sometimes have to do that. It's your brother-in-law, it's in the position, it's your kid, you've got to do it, but that's better than the alternative. Because if they're suffering through 30% of their day, they're operating at a low efficiency rate. And it's bad for the morale of the company, it's bad for the individual, it's bad for the company's profitability. Okay, so now the next is point 4, and that is be clear about what you're going to be selling. You've got a phone number, you've got your trusted reputation, you've got your database, your client database and your vendor database, you've got your inventory, your equipment, and your building. Your building better be separately titled, and in many cases, many businesses title all of their equipment separately, so they have a separate operating unit, and then they have all their assets, and then they have their building, and it's all broken into separate corporate vehicles. So, you've got your tangibles and your intangibles, your asset list. And in your asset list, you've got your you've got book value of the assets. Is it depreciated value? Is it liquidation value? Is it replacement value? Are you doing capital budgeting? When are you going to replace that copier? When are you going to replace those computers? At this point, everybody, it's just a revolving door with the equipment. So these are all plans that you need to have nailed down so that you know and you can determine the value of your company. Because one of the key things is the value of those assets, the value of your inventory, your accounts receivable. Are you wiping off uncollectible debt? These are the key features of establishing. There's many different ways to establish the value of a company, and these are the fundamentals: the assets, the AR, the accounts payable, and the fundamentals. Okay, then there's the intangibles, such as the customer reputation. Well, the customer repeat business, the cash flow, and the reputation of the company. How pleased are your customers with your company's performance, and how long have they been doing business with you, and how aggressive is your competitors, and are you losing customers to your competitors? Okay, next is the building a team to assist you through the process. Your attorney, your accountant, your investment advisor, your exit strategist. An exit strategist is like a generalist. He's like a general contractor. He keeps the whole thing running smoothly, moving forward. Selling a business, preparing and selling a business is like building a building. You're building the foundation. While you're pouring the foundation, well, you got to have the plumber and electrician coming in, putting in the fundamentals. Okay, then you're doing the framing, and you're putting in the windows, and you're putting in the roof, and you're doing the sheet-wall. Well, the plumbers and electricians are coming back for a little bit more. Okay, then you do your finish wall and your finish work, and you're doing your trim, and then the electrician and plumber come back again. You're operating several simultaneous timelines. Well, you're doing the same thing when you're preparing your business for not just sale, but for operations. But fundamentally here we're talking for sale. You've got to be looking at these different things because you've got your legal, you've got your accounting, you've got your insurance. All those things need to be addressed. Timelines. In these timelines, there's fundamentally taxes. Are you strategizing your plan? Are you going to sell it to an adult child? Are you going to sell it to a key employee? Are you going to sell it to a stranger? If you're going to sell it to a stranger, is it an investment stranger or is it a strategic investor? Do you own one piece of territory surrounded by 4 pieces of territory, and you've got somebody who owns those 4 pieces of territory, and boy, do they want your territory. You're then in that kind of a situation, you can sell for multiples of value, far more, far easier, far faster than to the strict financial investor who's going to just run the numbers and say, if I put it in bonds, I'm going to get this and I have no risk. If I put it in annuities, I'm going to get this. If I buy this company, what's my risk? And I have to run it, be responsible. So these are the kinds of things to be thinking about. Taxes and the type of buyer. And you structure your deal differently when it's an adult child and when it's a trusted employee who's been with you for 20 years, 25 years, building your success, than when it's a stranger. Yes, you can get more money, a lot more money, typically, from a strategic investor than a financial investor. So my last point is I want to encourage you to work for the success of the buyer. Now that's counterintuitive. Most people think, hey, I'm going to sell this to a stranger, I'm going to get big bucks, I'm going to cash out, I'm going to buy a yacht and moving wherever. Well, statistically, that's not how it typically works out. Now, if you've got a company that's worth, 100 million, 50 million, 100 million or more, those are possibilities. And the family transfer and the key person, unless you get into ESOPs, and there's lots of issues with that. But we're not talking about that. We're talking about small ventures. The statistics are 2/3 of entrepreneurs fantasize that they're going to sell their business to their adult kid. About a third, 25% to a third do. And frequently, those aren't good deals. Because the kid isn't really fully invested, he's doing it because he's expected to do it. Especially when you get to second and third generation and all the problems with that. So at this point, I'll entertain any questions. Thank you very much. It's wonderful to speak with you. Questions, comments? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. We'll move right along to our next speaker.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.